What's the right age to publish your first comic? Is there a thing like being too old or too young to publish your first comic book? You don't know? Well, let's talk about it. So I have this friend. His name is Antoine, and he's been a friend for a very long time. And Antoine had this interesting quote, an interesting take on comics. He said to me one day, if you haven't published your first comic by the age of 30, it's very unlikely that you ever will. Well, really? I disagree, and I'm the living proof of that. Now, see the thing. Comics are not rocket science. It's not statistics or even astrology or even anything like that. It's a combination of factors, but you can sum it up with one concept that I really love to talk about, and you'll probably hear me talk about this often in the coming weeks or years. It's what I call the human engine. And the human engine is precisely what's at the core of our comic book industry. But that being said, if you look at our medium and how it works, you need a couple of things that are very important. And a combination of factors to facilitate your comic book debut. And it's being at the right time, at the right place, one. Having the right amount of skill or talent. Meeting the right people or the key people, it's very important too. Being ready in some faction to compromise on some things, or for a publisher, or when you start your own venture. And of course, you need a tiny bit of luck. So let's look at the history of our medium, because I have proof and I can back it up. So the golden age was kind of the wild, wild west for us. If you look at someone like Jerome Siegel. Jerome Siegel is one half of the creators of Superman. And he started professionally in 1935. He was only 21. If you look at how the industry took shape in the golden age, which started in the 1930s and went on up to the early 1950s, it was pretty young. It was still pretty young. Some of the creators in that era were even younger. I had the privilege to interview Joe Kubert, the legendary Joe Kubert, before he passed away in 2012. And he told me this, and he told other people about that he started professionally to work in comics at the tender age of 11. And a few months later, he was making $5 a week, which was more than his father, a kosher butcher, was doing. So imagine how age was not a problem at the time. I mean, of course, nowadays, it's very hard to imagine an 11-year-old working full-time in comics, but in the 1930s, that was something that could happen. But even a little bit later, if you look at our industry in a time period that is closer to us, you still have incredible stories. Let me talk about legendary creator Jim Shooter. Jim Shooter worked for Marvel and DC and Valiant. And he wasn't even 14 years old when he had his first gig at DC Comics. It was in 1965. And he pitched a story for the Legion of Superhero, and 6 months later he got the call, and nobody knew at the time that he was so young. He stayed and he went on this incredible path after. And even in the 90s, even closer to us in the 90s, let's take a fan favorite artist, Joe Madureira. He was not even I think he was born early December or late November, and he was not even 17 years old when he had his first comic published, and that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. And it was in a series, an anthology series called Marvel Comics Presents. But still, not even 17 years old. That's fantastic. That's just incredible. Now, all these fantastic creators had the calling early in their lives. But what about those who started later? Let's take, for example, critically acclaimed writer Scott Snyder. Scott Snyder got his first gig in comics, professional first gig, at the age of 33. So it's a little bit older. And it was a short story for Marvel Comics, and then he did miniseries, part of the Noir line, which I also was part of. And then he started a very successful relationship with DC Comics through their Vertigo label. And then boom, he's writing Batman and the Justice League, and he's doing all those incredible things with them. And I could go on like forever and multiply the example, like Matt Fraction, Charles Soule, Chip Zdarsky. They all started being serious about comics professionally in their early 30s. So we're past what Antoine prophesized as the limit, as the age limit when you should start. Like after 30, you can totally start publishing your own comic. Same for Jonathan Hickman, whose first Image comic series, The Nightly News, saw print in 2006, and he was pushing 34. Ha. Of course, these creators had other jobs before they broke into comics. I mean, they started somewhere else, whether it was in design or writing or teaching even, and they joined comics later, even part-time or full-time. And you can even like have a successful career and come to comics after because it's your passion, and you just have the call just a little bit later. And I'll talk about like Joe Straczynski. Joe Straczynski broke into comics pretty early in 1987. He had a kind of a first gig at DC Comics, but it was not too much. But most of his career started really being like take flight in the 90s and in the 2000s, and he was over 40. So again, is there a right age? Don't think so. And even the creator of Wonder Woman, William Moulton Marston, published it when he was 48. So you see, age is nothing but a number. Let's talk about me. For me, it's different. Like, it is also kind of the justification why I made this video, because when my first comic was published, it was Spider-Man Noir #1, and it was published December 12th, 2008, and I was 38 years old. So I was not like in my, I mean, was I in my prime? I don't know, not really. I was already seasoned, and I had like many years of journalism and design and thousands of things that I did before, but I just had the opportunity. And I often tell that it's a question of opportunity too. So I had the opportunity, and at 38 years old, I really started my career. I could like go on forever, multiplying examples, but like I think like to be fair, my friend Antoine acknowledged after he saw the publication of Spider-Man Noir, he acknowledged that he was wrong in his statement, and we raised our glass to the medium we both love. Just one more thing, and that's the truth. It's like there's really no age to start anything. Comics, music, acting. I mean, Stan Lee started acting in his 70s, so it's never too late. It's never too late as long as you're persistent, as long as you believe in yourself, and as long as you never give up. And that's my motto, never give up. So thank you for watching, stay safe, peace, and comics are life.